Hey everybody, it's Kevin here. Happy Tuesday in the DMV. That's right, DC, Maryland, and Virginia for those of you outside of the area, not the Department of Motor Vehicles. So just to clarify that, but wanted to talk to you guys tonight. I've got a special guest about a lot of what's going on. Very topical here in the DMV, which is the status of the real estate market with all of what we're hearing going on with the DOGE effect. You know, we've got a lot of people, and being living in Montgomery County, Maryland, I know a lot of people who are federal employees. Some have lost their jobs already. Others, definitely feel are very uncertain about their job and their futures moving forward here. So, obviously that does have an effect on real estate. But last week we saw a lot of very viral videos going out on social media, mostly on X and places like TikTok. And what I also found, there was also a common thread that most of the people that were doing these TikToks and videos looked like they were about 17 to 18 years old, probably done from their parents' basement. And, a lot of these, it was just I was very skeptical about a lot of it right from the beginning. But anyways, I'm doing this live stream tonight from my basement, so there's nothing wrong with doing anything from a basement, but this is my freaking basement, not my parents' basement. And that's the biggest difference here. So anyways, with all that being said, I've got a special guest tonight, Karen Gardner, who is also a fellow YouTuber, real estate agent like me with Compass. She's in the DMV. She's licensed in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So with all that being said, I want to introduce you to Karen Gardner.
Hello there.
Hey, Karen, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm just living the dream here in DC.
Not much is going on around here, right?
Never is. We're all good here.
It's all good. Everybody's calm. There's no craziness. There's no, sky's not falling or anything like that.
Hey, listen, we had a balmy 68 degrees today, so I'm not complaining. It was a gorgeous day outside, so we've got that going for us.
We do have that. And that, and it looks like the weather's going to be pretty nice for the rest of the week. So, anyways, so today, I wanted to, I know that you did a video recently that you put out earlier this week about the kind of what's going on in the real estate market in the DMV. I just had one that went out last night. And tonight I figure, let's combine forces. You've got data, you've got receipts. So do I. Let's kind of compare and see if, what we're coming up with is somewhat similar. And, so we want to talk about the here and now and hopefully dispel or just debunk any fake news that's out there in the marketplace right now. But also, kind of maybe take a look at, okay, how do things look going into our spring market? Because we are right now at the very beginning of our spring market. This is the time of year where, we real estate agents are going to usually be at our busiest. So, kind of like to get your thoughts as well as the audience on what they think they will see going on in the spring market. So with all that being said, I wanted to, first of all, bring up an article that came out recently. And so we can kind of discuss that. And I'm not the best at always doing this, so let's just go ahead and see it. Actually, you know what? We're going to listen to a video, and this is a video that came out on a local news station, WNBC, to kind of discuss, what, you and I started seeing last week on social media about some of the kind of the fake real estate posts that are out there. So, with all that being said, let's kind of start listening to this, and, I'll stop it at certain points and you can kind of give me your thoughts on it. Sound okay?
Yep, sounds good.
Here we go. So,
social media post that is stoking fear and panic in homeowners. The post appears to show hundreds of homeowners putting their homes on the market because federal workers are getting laid off. Northern Virginia Bureau reporter Drew Wilder is digging into the story, and it turns out the post is fake.
Shocking.
Have you seen this post making the rounds on social media? It shows an explosion of houses hitting the market in Arlington County and Falls Church. The post suggests that President Trump and Elon Musk's slashing of the federal workforce is leading to a mass real estate sell-off and a mass exodus from Northern Virginia. The chief economist for the National Association of Realtors says this viral pic is bogus.
Right now, we're not seeing any major increase in inventory or any plunging in home prices.
Ashley Waymeyer is a real estate agent in Northern Virginia, and she says this bogus post has real estate agents across the area scrambling to try to set the story straight.
Some realtors have been posting because they've been getting calls from clients saying, what's going on? Is this true? Should I put my house on the market right now?
Bottom line, there is no sell-off, and the housing inventory is actually still low in the DMV, and the numbers prove it. Here's a breakdown of the housing inventory in Northern Virginia for the first 2 weeks of this month compared to the same time last year. This time period covers the fork in the road emails sent to federal workers, and what we see here is, well, not much other than in Loudoun County. Across the entire DC metro region, there were just 9 more homes on the market compared to last year.
That is not significant.
So, yeah, I mean, this is kind of in response to what we were seeing last week. And what is your take on it? What are your analytics telling you?
So, I mean, basically that we can just say goodnight because I just thumbed it all up. When I did the research, because I saw that same screenshot that they just showed, that's supposed to be Arlington. It looks like every house in Northern Virginia squished into a screenshot. And if you look at the price points on it, like these federal workers must make a lot of money because they're like 2.4 million, 4.1 million. Look at the price points. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I looked at Arlington in real time. I went on Bright on our MLS. And yes, inventory was up compared to last year, but we still have 1.34 months of supply. And to give that context, as you know, a balanced market is anywhere from 4 to 6 months. Buyer's market is 6 months and more. 1.34 months of supply is still a seller's market. Now, does that mean that every house is going to sell in multiple offers like it did a couple of years ago? No, we've had a mixed market here for a while, like, as you know.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. You know, one of the things that, you know, I mean, nationwide, I mean, inventory has been picking up. And so, you know, frankly, I think the DMV market, this is speaking currently right now, because, you know, I think we can all agree, like I'm not here to blow a bunch of smoke up people's rear ends and say, oh, everything's great and everything's wonderful. You know, I saw one person said something like that old Dickens quote. They modified it a little bit. This isn't the best of times, but it isn't the worst of times, you know? And I kind of agree with that because, you know, we're seeing a market that is, in my opinion, kind of balancing out some and really kind of needs to balance out because it's been too lopsided really for too long, in my opinion. And so what I'm seeing is, you know, the scales are kind of now a little bit more like this. I think throughout the majority of the DMV, you know, my research kind of, it goes along with yours. You know, I think throughout the majority of the DMV, it's still a market that would favor sellers, just not nearly as crazy as it did before. But are you as an agent, I mean, we're going into the spring market. This is when we're probably going to have the highest amount of new inventory hitting the market. It's going to be hitting the market at a feverish pace. I mean, but once again, this is seasonal. This happens every freaking year. Have you gotten any calls from anybody, clients of yours, who are like freaking out and like, oh my gosh, you know, Karen, should I be selling my house right now? Is the market collapsing? You know, have you been getting those calls from any of your clients?
I have. I've gotten them from all of my clients, to be honest, both sellers and buyers, because I work with both. And my sellers are like, did we miss the mark? What are we going to do? And here's the thing. We've been in a mixed market for a while, and there's a lot of disruption right now. We're used to elections here. We go through them every 4 years and every 2 years, like, you know, everybody else, but we feel them more here, but we're used to that. And it's not that disruptive. This year was a little different. And what's happening now with all of this news out there, it's causing disruption, not necessarily because of what's happening, but because of what is being told is happening. So anytime news comes out, whether it's true or false, if it's omnipresent everywhere you look, they're talking about the DC housing market's collapsing. All of these workers are getting fired. Everything's going to sell their house. People freeze, you know, when people get scared or they don't know what's going to happen next, or they don't know what's around the corner, they do nothing. They don't sell their homes. They do nothing. Right. So I think that is going to impact our housing market more than the actual news that's going on.
Yeah, I agree. And and by the way, I watched your video that you put out this week, and I thought you did an excellent job
Oh,
on it.
thank you.
And
Cheers.
one of the things that you'd said, which I 100% agree, is even those people who are most affected, who may have been laid off here recently. This is not something where they go home and then they call you or me and say, "Hey, you got to put the house on the market tomorrow." There's a lot that goes into this. It's not like, "Oh my God, lost my job, put the house on the market." What I'm seeing in the DMV area, especially, is, a lot of these people, first of all, you have to look at a few things. One of your points you made was like, you don't just put a house on the market the next day. Most of them, even if you're emotionally ready to like get the home on the market, typically there's a lot of work that needs to go into preparing the home for the market, whether that's getting the house fixed up, spruced up, staged, those type of things, making other plans for kids' schools, finding there's so much that goes into it. There's very few people who are going to be like, "Oh my God, lost my job, got to put my house on the market this weekend." That just doesn't freaking happen. So
Yeah.
all this
Also,
is,
another thing is a lot of people around our area are double income households. I know that
well,
just from being a real estate agent for a million years, not as long as you, but I've been a real estate agent for 22 years.
what the
And
hell are you saying?
my experience is a lot of our clients are double income households. So even
Right.
if one person's job may be threatened, because it's not for sure, and they're not going to actually stop paying them right away if that does happen. It's a lot of ifs. Where are they going to go? Like,
Right.
if they have kids, where are their kids going to go to school? Like,
Right.
where's the budget for moving? It's just not as easy as like, we heard this, boom, let's do this. Now, on the other hand, if people were potentially thinking about selling or
Right.
potentially thinking about buying, and all this shenanigans comes out, that may cause those people to say, let me pause and wait.
Right. Yeah, and you know what? We've got actually a question or two, so I figured we'll throw that out there. So Chris Balto says, "Would you buy in the DMV right now or wait to see how things play out?" So, Karen, I'm going to serve that one up to you.
I think that if you are ready to buy and you've done all your homework, so you've got your down payment, you've been approved, you know what you're looking for, it's always going to be a good time to buy if you're planning on staying a while. If you're thinking, I want to stay 2 years, I don't know if I would buy a house right now. But if you're thinking, this is where I want to move, I'm just waiting to see what's going to happen, I think a lot of people are going to be like, let's wait and see. So you actually may get a jump on what other people, while other people, stand on the sidelines. But it depends on where you're looking, what your budget is, and if you're really ready to buy. It's not an easy question to answer.
Yeah, I would agree, Chris. I would say that number one, it starts with, are you emotionally ready to buy? To Karen's point, I would say if you're not, I would be thinking long term, and I really define long term. Frankly, I really define long term as 10 years or longer. But well, let's just say it's 5 years. At least 5 years. If you're planning on purchasing this property and staying at a minimum of 5 years, you're qualified to buy. You're not stretching yourself beyond. You're not stretching yourself at the absolute max. And everybody's stretching some. Interest rates are still high, and God knows we're not going to get any help from that this year. I think that ship has sailed. The idea of thinking that we're going to be having, 5% or 4% interest rates in 2025, it's not going to happen. So we can't really expect to get any help there. But I would say that if you can qualify at today's interest rates, it probably is a good time to buy because, and we'll get to more of this in a minute, but the media or the social media keeps talking about all that's going on in the DMV with this huge purge of properties going on the market. And I don't think that's really the issue. I think the issue is more potential buyers pulling back, not inventory hitting the market, but more buyers pulling back away from the market, which gives people, Chris, if you're ready to go and you're qualified, it gives you an opportunity where there's a high chance that you may not have to do what the majority of people have had to do for the last 5 years, which is compete against 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 buyers, waive every protective contingency known to humankind, go way over list price to do so. In today's market, there's a better chance that you might be able to make a smarter purchase, being able to potentially get the property at list price, maybe below, maybe in some cases you can actually have closing costs paid for. Maybe, you'll get that home inspection contingency. Those things are, I think, going to be, going into this spring market are going to be a possibility in many cases where it just simply hasn't been the last few years. So I would say if you're thinking long-term, you're qualified, you know what you want to do, I think it's a great time to buy, because I'm not predicting that values are going to be going down. And I'm also wouldn't wait for interest rates to go down, because that doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon. And if it does, guess what? There's going to be another mad rush towards real estate. And then you're going to be getting into the same crap we had for the, early parts of the pandemic. So,
or if they go down and you buy now, then you can refinance. I mean, it's like you either buy now at this interest rate and they go up and you're happy, or you buy now at this interest rate and they go down and you refinance. I mean, it's one or the other. So as long as you're qualified, anyone that asked Kevin and I this question and they're like one of those, alarmists, or just they don't like real estate agents, they're going to say that Kevin and I are just saying it's a good time to buy because we want to sell you a house. Right. We don't know you. So you're asking us a question on this platform in general. And so these are our answers. Truthfully, it's not about us. So
Chris, that's a great question. So we got we have a comment from Slipping Jimmy. Hey, Slipping Jimmy, I appreciate you checking us out this evening. Slipping Jimmy says, schools here are great. No one is packing up quickly on the fly. And he just echoed your point there, Karen.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
Yeah, I also want to piggyback on one of the things you said. And I've done some, my own deep dive on stats. And first of all, beyond, I completely agree that many of these households that are going to be affected, there are double incomes there. But also, anybody who's purchased within the last 3 to 4 years or longer, I mean, they've got a ton of equity in their property. They're sitting in a good equity position. The majority of them put strong down payments on their homes, 10, 20% or greater. They didn't buy, most of them, unless it's potentially VA, didn't buy 100% financed. 30-year fixed mortgages. And by the way, I would venture to say that 75% of them are interest rates that are, sub 4%, that are in the 2.5 to 3.5% range. And so they're living cheaper in the house that they own than they could even if they went to go freaking rent something. So, right there, I don't see a lot of desperation in the market. This is not a repeat of 2008 where you had bogus predatory loans that were given out to people that really should not have been purchasing properties. No skin in the game, no money down, anything like that. I mean, that hasn't been the situation for the last 15 years. So, most of these people, even though the loss of a job is traumatic and, my heart goes out, at the same time, most of these people are in pretty good financial position right now. And then one other thing, Karen, what would the DMV area, last year, 2024, I took a look at not Arlington. I took a look at Fairfax County, Montgomery County, and DC itself. What do you think the percentage of cash purchasers were last year in those three areas? Give me your rough estimate or guess on that.
Probably a lot, probably like 30% is my guess.
You're a little overzealous, but
it was 30% of my clients.
In DC, it was about 25%.
Okay,
in Montgomery County, it was 22.7%. And actually, I was a little surprised. In Fairfax County, it was like 18.9%. But, basically 1 out of 5 homes purchased in the DMV has been purchased for cash. So they get fired. There's no desperation there. And there's no reason to be like, oh my God, I got to sell this thing. So, I think that's also really key factor, because in having done this for 30 years, like I've worked with more cash buyers the last 4 or 5 years, or been a part of more cash transactions than I was the first 30 years of my career. I mean,
me too. That's why, that's why I said 30%. You also have to remember, when people think of federal workers, not everybody, obviously not everybody, but a lot of people assume that they're all here, near DC, and they're not. There's less than 1/5 of them, less than 20% of the federal workers are in the DC area, meaning DC, Maryland, Virginia. They even stick a little bit of West Virginia.
I heard it's like 12.5%. 12.5% of the federal civilian employees are here in the DMV. There's actually greater percentages in like states like Texas and some other states. I think it just, obviously the hub is right here. I mean, this is the hub, this is the epicenter and everything, but so we have a few more questions and actually a comment. So Hillary Kochin, Hillary was a guest of mine once. She's a local mortgage lender. She's phenomenal. She did my daughter's loan, did a great job on it. And Hillary says a surprisingly large amount of local clients qualify for the properties they are buying using income from only one household member too. And Hillary would know this because she's the one who's originating these loans. So that's another great point there.
Yeah. And Hillary, I'm assuming that both people are working, but they only needed one income to qualify.
Yeah. So Erin Callahan, who happens to be my wife, she actually asked, coincidentally, do you expect interest rates to drop this year? And I think I kind of touched upon that. I don't think anybody, that was the hope, and that's what everybody was talking about in like September, October of last year. We were supposed to have 5 to 6 interest rate or Fed cuts. Not happening. So Karen, do you have any?
I mean, I think that there's still some talk about some Fed cuts happening. I think it all depends on inflation. It depends on the jobs report. It depends on what this new administration does with all this new stuff that they're putting out there and how that affects inflation. It could actually get worse, but I haven't seen anybody recently project anything under 6%. I've still seen some of the more bullish forecasters say close to 6%, but I haven't seen anybody say under 6% lately.
Yeah.
But so your friend might know. Hillary might know.
She might know. Yeah. And Hillary and I did a live stream about a month ago on this very topic. So Hillary, feel free to chime in because we're 30 days further down the road. So if you have any comments, feel free to join in. But Aaron also asks, are there any emerging areas in Montgomery County that are good to buy in long term? I have my feeling on this, but Karen,
go ahead.
Why don't you take that?
I'll let you go first so I can drink my wine.
Wow. Okay. So I would just say right now it's, I would follow the school districts. I would follow the high performing school districts that are, we would say in Montgomery County, follow the W's, so that's a very inside of MoCo thing. Follow the W schools. And for those of you outside of Montgomery County, and actually I said this in an office meeting the other day, and I was shocked that a few agents said, well, what are the W schools? But in Montgomery County, Maryland, those of us, the schools would be Walter Johnson, Winston Churchill, Thomas Wooten, Walt Whitman. Those are the W schools that oftentimes tend to be the higher ranked schools in the areas. And, people like to say my kid goes to a W school. That's a very Montgomery County thing to say. But there's definitely other schools beyond
there are.
But I would definitely say follow school districts because, whether you have kids that are going to be in the school district or not, I always say buying a house, you need to think like a pool player. You got to take one shot, setting up the next shot, and meaning that you're buying this knowing that at some point you're going to sell your home down the road. And those, that is going to be one of the, certain trends go in and out of style and fads and things like that. But I think, the top school districts are going to be one of those things that I would definitely follow. What are your thoughts?
I agree. I do think that we have to say that school boundaries do change, and there is a new school being built in Crown, and that may pull from the other schools. So it's not like a great science to do right now. I also think that there are a lot of schools that are underrated because of this whole W thing. Sorry. I went to Winston Churchill and my kids went to Wooten. So we're in, I'm a product, that turned out okay, of the W school, and my kids are as well. That being said, Richmond Montgomery, Quince Orchard, there are just so many other schools that do really well. And there's something to be said about being in one of these super competitive schools that you're surrounded by other kids that are in this super competitive school. And these colleges like University of Maryland can't take 100 kids from one high school. So just keep that. My kids are both in college now, so I'm kind of in the middle of it. But just keep that in mind. Like, it's not all about these W schools. I actually don't, I understand it. Like I said, I went to when my kids went, but it's just not, find a house that you like, find a neighborhood that works for you. look into schools that work for your kids. And if you just plan on being there a while, and then you can't go wrong.
Yeah, the other thing that I would say too is that once again, certain things go in and out of style as far as um, home styles, decor, things like that. And you can always change a lot of those type of things, renovate a kitchen, baths, kind of update things like that. So those are things that you have control over. But another thing that I always say is, look for a home that has a really nice lot, because once again, a good lot is never going to go out of style, like something that might, be much more usable for potentially kids or just for you to enjoy and everything. Something that may be a little bit more flat versus something that goes straight downhill or straight uphill or maybe backs to the 495 wall, things like, so I would always say look for a good lot because that's not the type of thing that's going to go in and out of style. And it's, to me, it's like you either have that or you don't, I mean, if you have a lot that's, let's just call it somewhat challenged, because of its backs right up to something that's kind of somewhat unsightly, power lines or 495, a major road, there's always things you can do to kind of buffer it some, take the edge off, but it's always going to be there. So I would say, a lot is something that you always want to, kind of keep in mind because that's something that's not a good lot. It's not going to go in and out of style. So anyways, good question. So getting back to just kind of, the market in general. So I'm just going to throw up a few statistics that I got. Okay. And you can, and, I watched your video and, I did my own research. You did yours. I think our numbers are pretty similar, but yesterday.
That was days ago. I don't remember it anymore. I'm old.
Yeah. Well, I've got this right here.
Yeah.
Otherwise I wouldn't remember.
Don't quiz me.
But no, I'm not going to quiz you. I'm not going to quiz you, but, taking a look at the DC market. Okay. You're licensed in DC. I'm not. Okay. Right now, or I should say as of yesterday, there were 2,110 listings on the market. There's roughly 700,000 residents in DC. From all the statistics that I've gotten, and once again, I'm not licensed there, so I wouldn't say I have my finger on the pulse, but I can read numbers and everything. It seems like DC, which of course is the epicenter of the federal government and all that's kind of taking place right now, seems to be the softest market in the DMV, more so than a lot of the surrounding counties like Fairfax, like Arlington, and like Montgomery County in Maryland. But 2,110 listings on the market. It looks like last month there were, how many sales were there? Gosh. I'm not seeing that, but I mean, basically what I came up with is that there's about a 5.5 month supply of inventory on the market, which is now teeter-tottering on the edge of going into a buyer's market. What are your thoughts on the DC market? Like, why is that softer? And by the way, I mean, this whole DOGE thing has been going on for about a month, 6 weeks now. But this is a market that's been softening for a while. So kind of give me your thoughts on why is the DC market softer than some of the surrounding counties?
Okay, so I don't know if that number is all types of housing. Is it condos, multifamily, single family?
Thank you for asking. 2,110 listings is everything on the market. But to where you were going with this is that about 60% of that, almost 1,200 of those properties are condos. And that and as pretty much anybody knows who's in the area, that condo market in DC is very soft right now. So that inventory, you almost kind of have to break, in my opinion, DC into two markets. You got the condos and then everything else. So
because I don't think that the DC single family and even attached home market is 5 to 6 months. I don't believe it. I think it's closer to 3 months, which is still softer than Montgomery County and Fairfax County, like you said. I think that, unfortunately, the DC condo market really took a hit during COVID. Right. When everyone wanted to get out of the city, well, people got out of the city because DC is so close to Maryland and Virginia. You have a lot of options. West Virginia. I mean, we're bordered by a lot of different options. So people really got out of the city, and I don't think it ever truly recovered, especially the condo market in DC. You also have to remember, DC is a very special city. It's divided into 4 quadrants, as we all know, with the capital in the middle. And not all quadrants are the same. They're not the same as far as the price points. They're not the same as far as the age of the homes. They're very different vibes, very different feelings to them. So if you're going to look at the DC market, I think you really should break it into Northwest, Northeast, Southeast, and Southwest to get a real picture, if you're thinking about moving here, of what's happening in that particular quadrant of DC. Because I think if you looked at Northwest, it'd be a very, very different market than if you look south of the capital as far as inventory, price points, days on market, everything. I mean, I've sold, in DC, not so far this year, but last year, and, multiple offers, 100,000 over asking, the whole shebang, just a beautiful townhome in Northwest DC.
So let me clarify my numbers here, because 1,147 condos listed in DC as of yesterday. That represents 55% of the total inventory in DC. Last month, 198 sales. So if you just kind of use that, that's where I get the 5.5 months of inventory. That's just condos on their own. Single family and townhouses, as of yesterday, 963 properties on the market. And last month, 251 of those went to closed. And so we're looking at about, to your point, we're looking at about 3 3/4 months of inventory in single family homes and townhouses. And, I've heard, I think you were in the meeting we had, what the hell is today? Today's Tuesday, Monday. I've been hearing, once again, I don't have my finger on the pulse there, but the luxury market in DC has been really strong. A lot of people think because of the new administration that's coming in. And just to give you one example, I'm aware that, Brett Baer with Fox News, I know his house was on the market for probably 6 months easily, and it was like 25, 26 million. That went under contract. Howard Lutnick with the Trump administration ended up purchasing that property and everything. So I think with the new administration, it's bringing some people in that are kind of, from what I'm hearing, buying up some of the luxury market. I mean, do you?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The 5 million plus in DC all of a sudden is booming. It's interesting, but it is happening. And I do think the new administration is bringing in a lot of money. Listen, it's disruption right now. We can't deny that it's disruptive. It's not all rainbows and puppies here in the DC area. There's a lot of chaos. But like I said at the beginning, my opinion and my experience is when there's chaos and uncertainty, people tend to freeze. They don't necessarily tend to make a move. So this could be a great time to buy. If you're an investor, it's a fantastic time to buy, in DC. You got to deal with the TOPA stuff as far as the rentals and stuff but as long as you're going to keep renting it out.
That's another live stream.
I'm just saying, like, you're asking about the DC market. I'm saying there's a lot of opportunity.
Well, and that's, going back to what Chris had asked earlier, is this a good time to buy? Once again, as a salesperson, you could say every time's a good time to buy, but I would say that right now there's going to be opportunities out there while other people, that's what like you say, it's usually when investors usually rush in when everybody else is rushing out, And so if you're not an investor, but you're looking to maybe purchase your first home or just purchase your second home, whatever that might be, take advantage of, if you're qualified, you feel comfortable with your job, you've got your down payment, you're planning more long-term, once again, I would say really 10 years, but let's say at least 5 years. I think there's going to be great opportunities that we haven't had in 5 years in the marketplace right now, while other people are hesitating. So I would say if you don't feel comfortable with your job, you're not ready, then don't do it. Stay away, wait to save up more money, wait to get yourself in a better position, make sure your job's safe and everything. So,
Kevin, I don't want us to mislead people that are possibly thinking about moving to our area where we are in Montgomery County, Maryland, because it is not easy right now. It's a good house that is priced right and shows well is still selling super fast, multiple offers over asking. Just last week, I had a client, 3 offers, not 10 offers, but still 3. Still, they had to go over asking. So, and it's the same in Northern Virginia. If you are thinking about moving here and you're listening to us, don't think, oh my gosh, it's going to be great. I'm going to get money back from the seller. No,
No,
not
but
happening.
I agree with you. But once again, I think the thing when people, I'm sure you get it all the time when people hear that I'm in real estate. It's always like, how's the market? And of course, and there's no blanket. This is the way the market is. There's pockets. There's
Yeah.
pockets. Tell me what price point you're looking. Are you inside or outside the Beltway? School districts. There's because there's, and that's our job. At least that of a good real estate agent is understanding where those pockets are, and being able to articulate that to our both people that are looking to sell as well as buy homes. So anyways, Slipping Jimmy asked, is the condo market good anywhere? I'm going to let you take that one because I have
I
mine.
don't know. I mean, I only know about DC. I don't know about the other parts of the country. I haven't looked into
I
it.
have to be honest with you. Like,
I know Florida's bad. Florida's not good. I know that.
Well, condos scare the hell out of me just about anywhere right now, to be quite honest with you. I have a situation right now on a really nice condo that with really nice, a young couple who's looking to sell it, move and buy, start a family, buy a single family home. And lo and behold, right at the time they were putting their home on the market, unbeknownst to them, they found out that the community is now getting a loan for, I believe it's $1.5 million, $2 million, something in that range, and getting a loan for a lot of exterior work that needs to be done. And these are 25-year-old condos. They're not 50, 70-year-old condos. This is in the Kentlands in Gaithersburg. And let's just call it $1.5 million. I might be wrong with my numbers, but what I'm not wrong about is this needs to be shared between 95 unit owners. I mean, that's a lot of freaking money to be shared between 95 units. It's costing each unit about $55,000. And now it's absolutely crushed the value of the home because they've now added that onto what used to be a $550 condo fee is now $1,250. And
Stop.
the property, and I'm going to go in a little bit further on this. This is a property that was actually under contract last February. Took it 2 days from closing. The clients moved out. I didn't have it listed at this time. It was another agent who ended up having to. She moved out of the area. She was not a part of the problem, but this couple moved out of the house, moved in with parents, was 2 days away from closing when the buyers or the buyer agent found out about this storm that was brewing that my clients knew nothing about, ended up walking out of the contract. And now I think they had an offer at $400,000 that they were going to take. Now I've got it on the market a year later for $345,000 and
whoa.
And sporting a $1,250 condo fee that, by the way, doesn't include any utilities and anything like that.
Crazy. So these people, how many people live in the building? Did you say how many units?
They're garden style apartment or garden style condos. So it's not like it's not a high rise, but it's basically let's call it $1.5 million is spread between 95 units.
So 95 units. So 95 people, families, whatever, had to increase their monthly payment $700.
It's a 10-year loan. It's a 10-year loan, and each one of them are basically responsible for about roughly $55,000 being paid over 10 years. So it's like, they have a great condo. They've done nothing wrong. They've taken care of their place. It's not one of these, like I say, freaking rundown buildings where, you've got to do asbestos abatement or lead, abatement or things like that, makes more sense. I mean, this is, and so I have to be honest with you. It's like, it scares the hell out of me. And I did a video, we all know about, the condo market in Florida, but, I did a video about condos and the pros and cons of condos maybe 6 months ago. And in doing the research, there were I found this news article about a couple that was well into their 70s, maybe even 80. They'd lived in this condo for 20 years. The condo fee was X. And, they were on a fixed income. And now all of a sudden, because of all these new rules and regulations that took place after the whole Surfside incident, where now audits are being done, they ended up getting a special assessment for $200,000. These people have no way of paying it. They can't afford the special assessment and everything. So condos, I got to be honest with you, they scare the hell out of me right now. I would say if you're buying one, do your research. check the condo documents, check the bylaws, check the budget, see the health of the condominiums, ask around a lot. I don't mean to be like Chicken Little and saying the sky's falling on all condos, but I think there's a greater risk with condos than just about anything else.
No, listen, you're telling true stories. I think it's important for people to know. I didn't know that happened to the Kentlands. I mean,
it's one. It's not the whole Kentlands. It's just one community, but the homes were built like 99. I mean, they're not ancient. I mean, we're not talking asbestos. We're not talking lead. We're not talking any of that crap. I mean, it's just exterior maintenance. There's a lot, and so anyways, so I would just say, Slipping Jimmy, be careful when it comes to condos. I'm not real bullish on them. But at the same time too, I mean, I wouldn't say not to buy one. I would just say be careful. So got a few other questions. So Chris asks, should we be comparing this market to 2008? And I kind of answered that, but if Chris came in late, my take is this is nothing like 2008. 2008 was a byproduct of a lot of phony baloney, bullcrap, predatory loans where people who shouldn't have been able to buy houses were buying houses. I mean, back at that time, they actually had loans. And I don't know if you remember this, Karen, they had what we call stated income loans, where
I had one of those. But I really did. My income really was true,
Okay. Well, but as well as I do, a lot of times you had people that were saying, I make $100,000 a year when they made $35,000 a year. And it was just like stamped, approved loan. And frankly, I think the only thing you really needed to do to be able to get a loan between about 2000 and 2006, 2007 was have a freaking pulse, be able to fog glass. That's really all you needed. That and the willingness to sign documents. That's really about all you needed. And, it was just a house that was completely built on cards and built on sand. But what I'd said earlier is, over the last really 15 years since like 2009, 2010, I mean, every buyer that I'm working with has strong credit scores. Most of them have strong down payments, good jobs, stable employment history, and they're putting down money on the property. These are fixed rate loans. Many of them today still have, 3% loans. And so they're sitting in a good position there. And these aren't, once again, kind of with all this DOGE crap that's going on, when tough times come, when you lose a job or maybe go through a divorce or whatever, you have one of these traumatic lifetime events, most of these people are sitting in good position where it's not like, oh my God, I got to sell the freaking house immediately. So I see this being nothing like 2008, where people were having loans that were adjusting and they couldn't afford the, adjustment on it. They put nothing down on the properties. Their loans, their loans were interest only, so they weren't applying anything towards principal. So you buy a home for $600,000, you pay for 2 or 3 years, you still owe freaking $600,000. But now, guess what? The values dropped 10%. Your interest rate just adjusted from your teaser rate now up to some other crazy rate. You can't afford it. And so it was a recipe for foreclosure. But I don't see this the case in any. I do think that you will start to see, in areas with some of the condos that I talked about, where you have people who get freaking stuck with a major special assessment and they can no longer afford, they can't sell the house because there's no market to buy it. Values go down. I can see some situations like that. But I think with the single family and townhouse market, at least in the DMV, I don't see foreclosures picking up drastically. Not everybody, but the majority of people have equity in their property. And so when tough times come, they ride it out. And if they absolutely have to, then ultimately they sell. So.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. And to your point earlier, it's almost like the opposite. Like a lot of people refinanced in the last 5 years, so their mortgage rates are not only fixed for 30 years, but they're lower than, definitely 5%. Most of them, 4%. And you said that earlier, and I couldn't agree with you more. I don't think it's anything like 2008.
Yeah, Chris keeps putting up good comments and good questions, so I might have to have Chris on as a guest at some point in time. Chris said, chaos breeds opportunity. Yeah, unfortunately, that is true. Once again, that's typically when investors come in. They're not coming in when everybody's throwing crazy money at properties. They're coming into the market when other people are retreating. And so I would say that once again, if you want to buy a house, you're well qualified, you feel comfortable with your employment, you feel comfortable with payments. You're not going to love the pay. Nobody's going to love their payments today, but you know what? You can freaking do it. It's a great time, and once again, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that everybody's desperate out there as sellers and you can go out and do all sorts of crazy I'm not saying that, but there are certain pockets where that is becoming a possibility. However, there still are plenty of areas, and those A+ homes that are, a 4 or 5 on a 4-star, 5-star properties. In most cases, those are still going to get multiple offers, but your 2.5, 3 stars, maybe you can go in there and do a little wheeling and dealing, be creative. Maybe it means you need to put a little sweat equity into the property to get it to your liking, but hey, you got a freaking house. So anyway, so YVS says, I want a house. So, hey, if you live in the Maryland, Virginia, DC area, well, first of all, if you live in Maryland or Virginia, hit me up. We can go ahead and put up a cute. Well, actually, you can just text me. Okay, you can text me. My number's 240-793-7495. If you're looking in DC, contact Karen. But yeah, we definitely would love to help you out. And if you're looking to purchase outside of the area, one of the things, we both work with Compass. Compass is a national company, and we have some of the top agents throughout all parts of the country. So we can easily place a really good referral to a top agent in the area that you're looking at. So definitely hit me up if there's any help we can give you, either locally or potentially a referral outside of the area. So anyways, yeah. So Chris also said, and actually, it's funny, I was on a live stream last night, and this question came up also, that apparently Ron DeSantis yesterday backed a proposal to eliminate property taxes in Florida. Any thoughts? Well, sounds awesome to me. I don't know how that happens. I don't know, that goes beyond my pay grade as to how you keep providing schools and services and keeping roadways and things like that done without any property taxes. But, from the consumer side of me and from the homeowner side of me, that sounds awesome. I don't know how you work that, but if you can show me how that works and it makes sense, then, I guess I'm for it. But do you have any thoughts on that? Did you hear about that?
I did hear about it. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I think Florida is having a lot of problems, between the different, climate disasters, and therefore, rebuilding, and then insurance costs. And there's a lot going on there, not all of Florida, but a lot of it. And I think he's trying to come up with a way to stimulate his economy, and by, having people buy houses if there aren't property taxes involved, yada, but there's still insurance and other things that you can't get away from. So it's a little more complicated than that, but listen, some states have really low property taxes. Delaware.
Well, and Florida, right now, once again, I'm not an expert on Florida, but gosh knows I watch that market. Compass has a very big footprint in Florida. I know a lot of people who live in Florida, who you and I both know. I'm sure a lot of people who vacation there, have second homes there. And of course, there's a ton of people who moved down there during the pandemic and everything. But I do know well enough to know that the majority of the Florida market, it's hurting right now, from the natural disasters to issues with condos that we've discussed and everything. So I would think also, and you had a lot of people who rushed down there during COVID, and some of them now are boomeranging and kind of going back, back to where they came from and everything, because they're like, shit, I love the great weather and everything, but this, natural disasters and having to, even if you don't have to rebuild and go through damage and insurance and things like that, just the threat of it and the concern of it is just disconcerting. So I think you've got a lot of people that are kind of second guessing the whole Florida thing. And maybe this is an idea that he has to kind of bring more interest back to Florida, because I think they're kind of hurting by and large. I'm not going to speak to the whole state because I don't
Right.
know it well enough, but the areas that I'm aware of, which of course, the areas I'm most familiar with are going to be close to water, not necessarily, So Aaron asks, as a buyer, what are some things that what are some things that could put a buyer in better position to win a contract, in a multiple situation? I'll let you tackle that one. I have my ideas. I have the feeling we're going to be thinking the same thing, but talk us through that.
I think that it depends on the house and how many people are competing. But if you have a good real estate professional you're working with, they know the questions to ask the listing agent to find out kind of what the seller is looking for. The more money you're putting down, the smaller loan you're going to get. So that's going to be helpful because then you don't have as much appraisal issues if you do go over asking. If in our area, we do pre-inspections, they don't do them everywhere in the country, but they do them here, meaning you can do an inspection before you actually write the offer. It's usually just a walk and talk, an hour long rather than a 3-hour written report. And if you can do that and the seller allows it, then you can write an offer without an inspection contingency. So you can make your offer super clean, but still have professional inspector eyes on the house and still have a loan possibly in the background, but without the contingency if you are qualified. And that's going to make your offer stand out. But most importantly, your real estate agent should talk to the listing agent to find out what the seller is looking for, because that could give you some hints on things you can do to make your offer stand out even more.
Yeah. I mean, I always say, it's like, you're exactly right. I mean, one of the things that I know that I do, and one of the things that I appreciate that other agents do when I'm working for the seller is really understanding the seller's situation, really understanding the agent, certain hot buttons, because ultimately in the end, it's, especially in competition, it's like putting two good puzzle pieces together, and you're not going to be able to just jam it in there. Like I hate doing puzzles, but I remember back 40 years ago, the last time I did one, there were times where it's like, I get frustrated. I'm trying to jam two pieces and it's close, but it's not right. And, but you're trying to jam it together. And once again, when you are in competition, when you're representing a buyer out there, when you are a buyer, you want to be able to provide the seller pretty much the things they want, yet not completely giving up everything to protect yourself so that you can kind of land that plane softly on the runway. So
also, and this is, Kevin, you and I are both with Compass, there's a lot of properties being sold off market right now, a lot of, private sales going on. I think the last stat, and correct me if I'm wrong, is like 30% of our market was sold privately. So make sure you are with somebody if you are looking to buy in this market in the DC area, in the DMV, that has access to that, and you can definitely get an advantage over other buyers out there, I believe.
Wow, that right there, that's a live stream. That's a whole topic. That was a phenomenal pivot, and you are 100% right. But I think you and I need to do another one, just to discussing off-market opportunities, because you're right, it's growing right now. In 2 weeks, I'm actually having Holly Worthington, who is she's the grand poobah of the whole DMV area for Compass, and so we're going to talk about the status of the DC market. That's going to be 2 weeks from now, so God knows what the hell is going to happen in the next 2 weeks. It's fluid. But we're also going to be talking about off-market opportunities and the platform that Compass provides and the advantages that buyers have of working. Once again, this isn't really about promoting us, but with
true. It's just,
with Compass, I always say that, look, if you're working with us, you actually can see about 110 to 115% of what's on the market, not just 100%. Like Zillow, you can see 100% pretty much of what's out there. Redfin the same, but with a Compass platform, you can really see 115%. And that 15% is the off-market inventory that we have that you're not going to be able to find on some of these platforms. So anyways, I'm going to stop tooting the Compass horn for a second.
I don't think it's wrong to say what's true. I mean, I was with another brokerage for 18 years before I switched to Compass 2 years ago. And I was happy. The only reason why I switched to Compass was because of the private sales going on and the network that we have and how, just robust it is. And I personally have done a lot of private sales, both on the buy side and the listing side in the last
Mhm.
couple of years. And I'm always confused to why people do this, because you think you would do better being on the open market. But you know what? A lot of sellers just say, get me my price and I'm good. I don't want to deal with it.
And they'll pay
You
for,
know?
and buyers will pay for the exclusivity of having an
Right.
opportunity that not everybody knows about. It's that exclusivity. It's like, so yeah, no,
And one more thing I would
100%.
say to your credit, Kevin, because you're amazing at this. You're definitely much more extroverted than I am, but a lot of it is who you know. Your relationships with other agents, how many people how many people know that you're going to close the deal. I mean, that's super important in a mixed market.
Yep. 100% agree. I always say, I always say a good agent can be like a magnet and a bad agent could be like a freaking scarecrow, and it's true,
Right.
it's like, how many times when you're working with sellers, there's certain agents and they're not all Compass agents. And we have a lot
I
of
don't
really
know.
great agents, but, I have a lot of really great agent friends of mine, former colleagues of mine that work for Long and Foster, that work, at, Coldwell Banker or Remax or Keller Williams. And, when you see their offers come in, you just know it's going to be easy. It's like two good dance partners working together, so, those are type of things which are awesome when you have those opportunities. So anyways, got a few more questions here.
Can you
So,
please bring up the next one from Aaron?
okay. Yeah. And actually, this is a good one for you to answer because I don't know if she heard this early on because I think you and I were talking about it backstage. So, Aaron asked, is now a good time to buy a second home in the Ocean City, Bethany area? Hint, hint.
That's the part I like, the hint, hint.
Just a mild hint there and everything. So, Karen, why don't you're the one with more experience than me on this. Why don't you talk about that?
I think it's a great time, Aaron, and you should talk to your husband about this. In fact, you guys should buy a place near us because we close on Monday and I'm terrified.
So where, you don't need to give us the address. You don't need to give us the address, but
I know, I'm like,
you're buying in the Rehoboth area, correct?
yes. Yeah.
Okay. And you've been going, you've told me you've been going down to Rehoboth for years and everything.
Oh yeah. I'm taking my kids down since I moved back to the area 19 years ago. My brother's got a house there. So we took our kids and did the whole family thing every summer. And then when the kids got too big for one house, we got two houses and I would rent near his house that they own. And yeah, so now the kids are in college. It's time to buy.
So, okay. So obviously timing is right for you because your kids are in college.
Oh,
but
it's not. It's like you think it'd be better to buy when the kids are small.
Well, okay. But I mean, the bottom line is, obviously you must think it's a decent time to buy because you're doing it and you're freaking closing on Monday.
That doesn't mean that I'm sane. I could be crazy. I mean, you think about it. I now have 2 college tuitions. The kids aren't here to use it. It doesn't make any sense. But here's the thing. And this goes back,
baby.
This goes back to the whole video the whole stream that we're doing. Is it a good time to buy? What's happening here? What's with all the chaos? What's been happening in the last 5 years, since the pandemic? A lot of people refinanced during the pandemic. A lot of people bought before the pandemic and their home prices and home values have increased dramatically, about 40% in our area. Put those two things together, you have a lot of equity in your house. If you choose to buy a second home or you choose to buy a home and sell your home, doesn't have to be a second home, not everybody, you might have access to a lot of equity that you can then put towards that second home or put towards that next home to bring your loan amount down. So even with the higher interest rate, because I have a 2.865 for my home and I'm now closing on a 6.7, which you'd think would make me choke. It's all about the monthly number, right? So if you put enough equity into the new house, the second home or the new house, and bring the monthly number down to where it's palatable and reasonable, that interest rate doesn't hurt that much. It's all about the monthly number. So bring it all to a full circle. And Aaron, yes, you should tell your husband to buy you a house.
Oh God. Anyways, thanks for that question, Aaron. And we skipped over Brian to get to Aaron because I wanted to make sure we had enough time there. But
Sorry.
Brian Morley asks, is there a big difference in activity in lower Montgomery County versus northern Montgomery County?
I think it depends on the house. I mean, yes, the closer into DC, The more expensive it is, the smaller, older house for more money. That's just the way it is. You know, the closer you get into any major city, it's usually like that because your commute is less. You're closer to everything that, you know, in the city. That being said, it really depends on the house.
Yeah.
Not even the neighborhood. It depends on the house.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, so I would say this, because, you know, the majority of my business tends to be more the central part of Montgomery County to the upper part of Montgomery County, where I think yours is kind of more central to lower part of Montgomery County. So, you know, and, you know, obviously I'm very familiar and I work with all parts of Montgomery County, but that tends to be where the majority of my business is. And, you know, yesterday when we were in the meeting, everybody was talking about, you know, gosh, we had this 1.2 in Potomac and we had 8 offers on it. And we had a 1.1 in Bethesda and we had, you know, 32 offers. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but, you know, and, you know, I'm not experiencing that with where I'm doing the majority of my business in your Rockvilles and your Gaithersburgs and your Germantown, you know, areas. I'm still seeing a good market. The properties that I've put on the market, you know, by and large have all sold within a timely manner, within a week or so. Some of them have had multiple offers, but we're talking 2 or 3 offers. I'm not talking 5 or 10 offers. Some of them, you know, it's taken a week to 10 days, which once again, we only need one buyer, but, you know, we're selling at list price, you know, where it's not blowing up and everything. So, but I agree to your point, you know, those A+ homes, you know, that are really special, that have a great kitchen in it and everything, you know, those are still going to get a lot of attention. There's and it was funny yesterday because Craig Sword in our office, you know, we were talking, you know, we were kind of batting around about, you know, buyer hesitancy and, you know, holding back. And he's like, you know, there's a lot of people out there that are saying, you know, hey, I'm going to put it on pause. And he's like, I find a great kitchen in a house, I'm gonna say, hey, you know, I know you're on pause, but you got to see this kitchen. And he's like, and a lot of them are coming out. He's like, just throw them a good kitchen, and they'll come back out and start looking at houses and everything. So, you know, I think those homes, I compare it a little bit to online dating. You know, I always say that,
So
you
random.
know, what's that?
That's so random.
It is, but it's true. I always say it's like
You are married, Kevin. Remember that?
But I had a moment when I did that. And so, but I'm just saying that, you know, it's like your 8s, 9s, and 10s are always going to have plenty of dates lined up on a Friday or Saturday night. If one falls through, there's others to replace it, you know, and that's the same way it is with these houses, you know, but your 6s and 7s, 2 or 3 years ago, were getting treated like 9s and 10s. Now they're getting treated like freaking 6s and 7s, where it's a little iffy. You might get a date, you might not get a date, you know, and if one falls through, you're probably going to have to find a, you know, BFF to go out with that weekend. So, I mean, I think that that's kind of what we're seeing, you know, like I said, for the longest time, 5s and 6s homes were getting treated like they were 9s and 10s. And now they're kind of getting treated like the 5s and 6s that they are. But 9s and 10s, regardless of the market, are always going to get treated that way. So my counsel to sellers is make your home a 9 or a 10.
Good advice.
People understand it. And we're kind of running low on time, but I got Slippin' Jimmy says kitchen, deck, and garage are my go-to desires. Yeah, I get it. You know, it's kitchen, definitely, you know, nice decks and out, you know, that, I mean, that was a big thing that took off during the pandemic is, you know, outdoor space and everything. I mean, that was always important, but it became more important during the pandemic. And I think that's one of those things that just hasn't faded, you know, it's having nice outdoor space. And what's funny is the garage is, you know, anybody who knows me knows that I am not a fix-it person. Like I'm really not handy at all. But what's funny is like I'll show a house or I'll go to a house where they've got this like really tricked out kick-ass garage, you know, with the epoxy floor and it's all set up. And I'm like, shit, man, I think I ought to buy this. Like I could buy like an old Mustang and start ripping it apart. And I'm like, wait a second, I can't freaking do that, you know. But like it stirs this like inner like kind of part of me that's like, I want to rip apart a car and rebuild it. I'm like, wait, I can't freaking do that. So you know, it's interesting. So I agree there. Slippin' Jimmy says Karen is a 10. Chaz.
Why are you laughing at that? Thank you.
Chaz Loose. So Chaz is a client of mine, and so I got to say this. So, are you okay to go just a few more minutes longer, Karen?
I am going to have to dip out in about 5 minutes.
No
have another
worries.
appointment,
So,
but you can keep going without me.
No, so Chaz is a client that his family I got from YouTube, and I'll never forget this. He called me, I was in an office meeting and I was wrapping up the meeting, and I get this call from this number I didn't recognize, and I put it on, I sent it over to voicemail. Call comes in again, like 2 seconds later. I'm like, oh my God, this is a real ballsy salesperson. I put it over to voicemail. And then the third time it comes in, I'm like, holy crap. So I pick up with the biggest asshole voice. I'm like, hello. And it's like, I hear this in the background. It's like family, they're driving on the road. And it's like, Kevin? And I'm like, what's Kevin? What do you want? And they're like, and I hear him say to her, he's like, oh my God, it's Kevin on the phone. Oh, wait, Kevin, is this you? This is Chaz and Tracy, and we're driving up 95 from Florida, and we're coming here to buy a freaking house. Will you work with us? And so long story short, I found them a house, ratified it, we beat out 7 other buyers or so on Christmas Eve. Nice. My whole family lived with this. I was on the phone with them Christmas Eve, and my whole family was like pulling for them. Did they get the house? And they got beautiful twin girls and everything. Did they get the house? I'm like, they got the freaking house. That was like my freaking Christmas. I want to say it was 2022 maybe. And since then, they bought a house in Germantown. They sold it. Work kind of took them to Virginia. Last year, I helped them find a home in Virginia. I'm sad to see them leave MoCo, but it's good to know they're in the DMV. So Chaz, Chaz, thank you for watching. And Chaz says, and I need a garage. And I need a garage that fits a full SUV like an Expedition or Navigator. All right, Chaz, I'm going to call you up, and we can get your house on the market and find you a new place. So, and it's funny because when Chaz's daughters are maybe 4 or 5 right now, twin girls. And so when I helped him buy the place last year, he's like, yeah, well, I don't, I love the house, but I'm not sure the rooms are going to be large enough when they're teenagers. I'm like, dude, you guys, I know your pattern. They're not going to be here when they're teenagers. We're gonna have sold you 3 houses by that time. So, anyways, one last Chaz, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. One last, Chris Balto says a little bit of paint can make a 6 go to a 10, and I'm talking about houses here.
You're not talking about me.
That. So true. But the only thing that I would say, Chris, and piggyback on it is, it's got to be a professional paint job, because like I've seen people who are like, I don't want to pay your painter. I want to do it myself. Or I've got a friend who's going to do it, and they do the shittiest paint job, horrible colors. They slap crap all over the place. They put on high gloss, paint on the freaking walls, and, high gloss on the ceilings where you got to wear freaking, sunglasses in there. So 100% agree. Paint, I love it. It can turn a 6 into a solid 9 if it's done, and it's done well with good colors, a good quality job. So anyways, but I wanted to thank Karen. I wanted to thank you for being here. I had fun.
Thanks for having me.
And you guys can all check out Karen's on YouTube as well. She does a YouTube channel. What's the name of your channel?
That's my name. It's pretty boring.
So look her up and everything. Go to her channel. She puts out a lot of good content and everything. And, for the rest of you guys out there, if there's anything you need when it comes to real estate, once again, you can always hit me up by text. Feel free to reach me at 240-793-7495. I've also got this QR code up on the screen where you can scan that to set up. It goes right to a Calendly link where you can go ahead and set up a one-on-one video conference with me. We do it by Google Meet. We can do 15, we can do 30 minutes where we can talk about anything that has to do with real estate. Love the opportunity to do that. And then also, as I kind of said earlier, if you're from out of the area and you're thinking about making a move, either buying or selling a property, then, I also have an awesome network of top quality agents throughout the country that I can easily, no obligation, doesn't cost you a thing. I can easily help find and vet a good quality agent for you. And the last thing I'm going to say, it comes across a little controversial, but you know what? It's freaking true, is that 80% of the real estate agents in the DMV, outside the DMV, everywhere, most of them are horrible. Most of them are terrible. So, you know, if you don't have a good relationship or you don't have a good contact when it comes to real estate agents, and you think that, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and find one here myself, the chances are 80% you find a complete dud. 20% are really very good, very ethical, honest. They're going to be your advocate. They're going to be your counselor. They're going to help you along the way. They're not going to push or prod you to do things you don't want to do. Once again, those are the type of people that I network with. So if you need any help finding a good agent in your area, the chances are great that I can help you do so. So with all that being said, thanks for checking out the live stream tonight. Please, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I post a video each week, and I'll be back next Tuesday from 6 to 7 with another guest talking about the real estate market in the DMV. So you guys have a great Tuesday night, and peace.